A very good evening to all of you. I, CA Singhal, on behalf of TAXO team, would like to welcome our listeners to the 24th session of TAXO Prime Time. For today's session, our guest speaker is CA Anmol Gupta. He is an indirect tax speaker, author, and holds vast experience in tax litigation. Today, he will give us a comprehensive analysis of the latest judgments pronounced under indirect taxation and its impact on the ongoing litigation. Sir, I request you to take the session forward.
At the outset, before starting the session, I would like to thank Team TAXO for giving me this opportunity and inviting me again to our own knowledge research partner, TAXO, to deliver this session with all of you. It's been a long time since I've delivered my last session. I believe my last session with TAXO Prime Time was GST litigation series, where we comprehensively covered the entire provisions that are there in the GST litigation chapters. We covered a vast domain of all the chapters that are there in the GST litigation. And now, today, after a long time, TAXO has asked me to come again before you to discuss the recent judgments that are there in the GST regime. So friends, like you all must have recently heard that there are many pertinent judgments that have come under the GST regime, which have laid down many principles that are going to be followed in the years to come and the periods to come. So it is now very important again to talk about the recent judgments, a topic which keeps on updating itself in the past some time. Like we have recently heard about a very landmark and a very important decision that has come from the Punjab and Haryana High Court in the matter of Genpact Limited, wherein the scope of intermediary services has been very beautifully and very elaborately been discussed by the Honorable Punjab and Haryana High Court. So it was actually the need of the hour, since as per the ongoing litigations that was revolving around the term intermediary, many refund applications were being rejected, as well as many demand notices were being issued, particularly talking about the Gurugram Commissionerate, followed by many commissionerates of Delhi region also. So to put an end, or I would say to give a clarity to all those litigations, that what is exactly the scope of intermediary, a very elaborative and a very good judgment has been passed recently by the Honorable Punjab and Haryana High Court, and I believe that would be the main topic for the day. Other than that, also there are many pertinent judgments that have been recently pronounced, be it regarding the parallel proceedings, which is again another pain point for all the practicing professionals as well as the taxpayers under GST. Another point being whether the payment of pre-deposit can be made from e-credit ledger. So likewise, there are many recent judgments that have been pronounced, and it has become very important to discuss this particular topic right now. So moving forward with my topic for the day, I would just share the screen. Lavi, is my screen visible?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
So the topic that has been given to me by Team TAXO today is recent judicial pronouncements under indirect tax. So like I just said, that there are many judgments that have been pronounced recently that has actually made this topic very important to discuss today. Some of the judgments in this limited time of 1 hour that has been given to me, some of the judgments that I am going to cover today, the topic that I am going to cover today is first, whether the payment of pre-deposit that I have to make, the mandatory pre-deposit that I have to make, can it be made through e-credit ledger? So I'm going to discuss in detail under this topic. I'm going to discuss in detail that what exactly is the concept of pre-deposit, how it evolved from the year 2015 in the erstwhile service tax regime and customs and central excise law, and how it migrated to the GST regime, and what exactly is the concept behind that, and whether the payment can only be made through e-cash ledger or e-credit ledger can also be used for the same. The second point of discussion for today is whether the parallel proceedings by multiple wings of GST department is allowed. The third point being, we are going to discuss a very recent advance ruling, which was argued by me only, wherein there were 7 different issues on which an advance ruling was filed by a very reputed and a very reputed PSU of our country, an extended arm of the Ministry of Railways. There were 7 different issues on which the taxability was under question, and a ruling was sought from the Haryana Authority for Advance Ruling. And I am going to discuss the advance ruling, wherein the notice pay recovery, liquidated damages, canteen charges, for feature of earnest money, bank guarantee, credit balance return of ID card. I am going to discuss all those 7 different scenarios. Then the fourth topic for the day is whether the allegation of clandestine removal, mainly on the basis of book entries, can be leveled upon the taxpayer or not. Whether it is wrong to levy allegation of clandestine removal mainly because of the book entries. So in this particular topic, we are going to discuss what exactly is clandestine removal and what ingredients are required to prove that clandestine removal has taken place. So this is a concept which was evolved in pre-GST era from the central excise laws that was going on. And it is very much relevant in the GST regime also, since many offenses under the GST regime talks about clandestine removal also. Then the fifth topic that we are going to discuss today, which is the most important and the center of highlight for the day, is the recent decision which highlights the scope of intermediary. So there is a, like I just mentioned before, that there is a judgment of Punjab and Haryana High Court in the matter of Genpact Limited, wherein the scope of intermediary has been very widely and elaboratively been discussed by the Honorable Punjab and Haryana High Court, and it intends to actually put to rest many litigations that is going on across the country on a mass level, I would say. Then the sixth topic is a very important topic in the today's GST era, where we see that many of the notices are being served without furnishing the reasons or the relied upon documents or the material basis which that notice has been served. Only a single rhyme is written in many of the GST registration cancellation notices, and even in many of the refund applications, while rejecting the refund applications in the order as well as the notice, we see that generally it is done by mentioning just one para or a line without giving the detailed reasons as to why our refund application is proposed to be rejected or is confirmed to be rejected by the order. So we are going to cover these 6 topics, and what questions are we going to answer in this particular session. So whenever we take a session, it is the first and foremost objective as a listener or as an audience that we want to understand that in this 1 hour that I'm going to invest, what are the questions that I'm going to what are the questions which I'll get the answer in this particular session from the speaker. So I've drafted 13 set of questions that I'm going to answer through the help of recent case laws of various high courts as well as the advanced ruling authorities, which I'm going to answer in this particular session. So the first question is, can a pre-deposit of tax under dispute be made from e-credit ledger, or it can be made only through e-cash ledger? Similarly, whether the pre-deposit of penalty, so like for example, there is a dispute of e-way bill wherein only the penalty is under dispute. So whether if I have to litigate that particular order of detention under section 129, and only the penalty is under dispute, and I have to make a mandatory pre-deposit of 10% to file an appeal, whether that pre-deposit of penalty can also be made from the e-credit ledger. Then the third question that comes to our mind while discussing the index that I just did is, what are the parallel proceedings? And then the fourth question, which is somewhat similar to the third question, that can proceedings for the same year which have been initiated and pending or concluded, so either it is initiated and pending or it has been concluded by one wing of the CGST or SGST department, can again be initiated by the another wing of the same department. So this is a particular question which is another pain point under GST regime, that even I would say that under the erstwhile service tax regime, it was a pain point, wherein for the same year, parallel proceedings, multiple proceedings are initiated by different wings of the same CGST department or the central department. So we are going to discuss that. Then the fifth topic that we are going to discuss is again a very burning topic or a very hot topic these days, that what is the taxability of notice pay recovery and forfeiture of surety bond from employee. I'm going to discuss the entire facts, that when notice pay recovery is made, what is forfeiture of security bond from employee. I'm going to discuss in detail everything. Then the sixth question that I'm going to answer is taxability of liquidated damages and forfeiture of earnest money, security deposit, and bank guarantee. So this happens generally in the case of construction contracts, wherein mostly in the case of government contracts, wherein a contractor is engaged by a government entity, and there are certain clauses which stipulates the liquidated damages being deducted by the government entity, or the forfeiture of earnest money, security deposit, or bank guarantee that is deposited by the this contractor to the government entity. So we are going to discuss the taxability of that particular thing. Then we are going to discuss the taxability of canteen charges and ID card charges, which is recovered from the employee. So if we recover any amount of canteen that we have provided in our office, or the ID card that I have provided to my employee, whether those charges are taxable under GST regime or not. Then we are going to discuss another issue, which is a very small issue, nothing much, but still, while discussing with many of my clients or the taxpayers, I have encountered that this is one issue which no one has thought of, and which might have would have invite litigation. So we have filed an advance ruling and got this issue also settled, wherein whether there is a creditor balance that is long standing, and my stat auditor says that there is a balance long standing, this creditor is not coming up to take his dues back. So you just write it off through P&L account, wherein this entry goes to revenue account. So on the credit side of the P&L account, this entry shows as a revenue or as an income. So whether this writing of the creditor's balance, which is a long standing dues, whether this particular amount is taxable or not under GST. Then we are going to discuss what is clandestine removal. As I just mentioned before in the index, that we need to understand what is clandestine removal. We all know what is fake invoice, but exactly opposite is the case of clandestine removal. So I'm going to discuss what is clandestine removal. Then I'm going to discuss in the clandestine removal only that whether a case litigation can be made in the case of clandestine removal by the department, mainly on the basis of some entries found in a diary without any corroborative evidence, without any substantial evidence proving clandestine removal, and what are those evidences that has to be produced by the officer to prove what is clandestine removal. Then the 11th topic, again very important topic that we are going to discuss, is this is a question that comes up, I would say, of every assessee who is under litigation or every professional who pursues litigation, that whether judgments of previous regime are applicable upon judgments of current regime. So in many cases, officer, as per his convenience, choose to I was having this debate with one of my professional colleagues few days back, that in many cases officers choose to accept the old judgments and choose not to accept the judgments of old regime as per their convenience. So in case there is a judgment of old regime which is in favor of department will accept it. However, when there is a judgment of old regime in favor of assessee, department will simply deny it by saying that old regime's judgment are not applicable, since the regime has been changed from erstwhile service tax or sales tax regime to, or central excise regime to GST regime. So we are going to understand what are the principles that have to be followed when I'm quoting any judgment of previous regime in the current regime. Then the most highlight of this session, I keep repeating this again and again because this is a very important thing that we are going to discuss today, that what is the scope of term intermediary. So intermediary has been defined in IGST Act, and department many a times using this particular clause of intermediary, the place of supply, denies a refund of export of services. So we are going to discuss what is the scope of intermediary and in what cases exactly one person is held as an intermediary and one person is not held as an intermediary and is held to be rendering services on principal to principal relationship. Then the 13th and last question that I'm going to answer in today's session is whether reasons or RUDs are required to be furnished by the department along with a notice of demand. So whether it is mandatory for the department to furnish reasons or just a one-liner notice is sufficient. We are going to discuss that in light of the a judgment which is rendered on a very important topic, fake invoices. So we are going to discuss whether what reasons the department is required to be furnished, and if those are not furnished, what consequences would follow. Now, coming to the first topic, if anyone has any question in between any of the particular topic, they can immediately write it in the chat box, and I'll try to cover those questions then and there only, along with that particular topic that I'm discussing out of these 5 and 6 topics that I'm going to discuss. So the first topic being payment of pre-deposit through e-credit ledger. So before dwelling into the concept of pre-deposit, before discussing what is the existent law under GST regime regarding the pre-deposit concept, I would like to throw some light upon the concept of pre-deposit, how it evolved, what was the reason to bring in the concept of mandatory pre-deposit, what exactly is pre-deposit, how pre-deposit is made. So I want to discuss some of the background of the pre-deposit. So there are different stages in a particular litigation. First of all, to recover any particular dues as per the department, in view of the principles of natural justice, a notice has to be served by the department wherein the demand is proposed by the department. It is never confirmed. It is never directly sought by the department. A demand is first proposed by the department, giving opportunity to the taxpayer against whom the adverse decision is to be taken, giving opportunity to such taxpayer to rebut the allegations that I am making. So for example, if as per the department, a particular X service is taxable, and on that particular X service, the assessee has not paid the tax, and as per the department's computation, rupees 50 lakh of service GST becomes payable. So principles of natural justice require for the department to not directly confirm and recover those particular tax dues of 50 lakhs on X category of services. But principles of natural justice require the officer to first give a notice of demand, wherein the officer would say that as per so and so allegations, as per so and so law prevalent, as per so and so facts of your matter, according to me, X service is taxable. However, you have not paid the tax on X services. So therefore, according to me, rupees 50 lakhs becomes payable, and please tell me how this 50 lakhs should not be recovered from you. So this entire language that I have just spoken about, this gives an opportunity to the taxpayer to make a submission, to rebut the allegations of the department, to make his point of view, make his stand before the authority, before the department, that sir, because of so and so reason, the X service is not taxable. So first a show cause notice is served, wherein the department give it such allegations and propose the demand. Then you make the reply to question, and then an order is served. In any litigation, you talk about GST registration cancellation, refund, e-way bill, demand notices. In any litigation, you will see that first you will receive a show cause notice, then you will make the reply to show cause notice, and then you will receive an order, wherein either the demand that has been proposed while show cause notice will be confirmed, or it will be dropped, or partially confirmed, partially dropped. For example, either 50 lakhs will be entirely dropped, or 50 lakhs will be entirely confirmed, or 40 lakhs will be confirmed and 10 lakhs will be dropped. So depending upon the submission that you have made and how much satisfied the officer is with your submission, your demand will be either dropped or confirmed, or partially dropped or partially confirmed. So once the demand is confirmed or partially confirmed against the assessee, such dues becomes payable to the department. Earlier, before the order, the dues are not payable to the department because an opportunity is being given till the order. But once an order is pronounced, an order is passed by the competent authority, such dues become payable to the department. So once we have to pay it to the department, department comes to us for the recovery of the dues. So once an order is passed, department immediately comes, CA Anmol, 50 lakh of dues is confirmed by so and so order. So you have to pay those dues. So, but I have the remedy to challenge the order before the first appellate authority, both in the erstwhile regime as well as the current. So in order to challenge that particular order and to set aside the recovery proceedings, there is a concept of stay order. So I have to file an appeal before the first appellate authority, and I have to seek before the authority that, sir, please, because of so and so reason, because of so and so merits involved in my case is very meritorious and I am going to win this case. So you are requested to kindly stay the recovery proceedings because I am filing an appeal before you. My matter is sub judice. In the lawyer terms, we say that matter is sub judice, that is pending before the upper court for determination for finalization. So I always approach the appellate authority or the upper judicial authority that, sir, please grant stay from the recovery proceedings that the department will initiate based on the confirmed demand. So for that, prior to 2015, in service tax, central excise, customs, we have to file an appeal, and along with appeal, we have to file an application for stay. So the department usually, if you talk about the tribunal level, the tribunal usually used to first hear the stay application, and I used to dictate the entire case, dictate the merits involved in the case, and prima facie, if the tribunal used to think that yes, the case is very meritorious, there is no need for recovery, the tribunal used to grant stay from the recovery proceedings or order some of the amount of the confirmed dues that you pay. Let's say from out of 50 lakhs, you pay 5 lakhs, and I'll hear the appeal, and you'll get a stay from the balance 45 lakhs. So to put an end to all these stay proceedings, the Ministry of Finance, the board RCBIC, came up with an idea of mandatory pre-deposit, wherein if I have to file an appeal before the first appellate authority and the second appellate authority, under the erstwhile regime, there was a provision which used to say that you have to pay 7.5% of the confirmed demand. Like, for example, there is a confirmed demand of 50 lakhs. I have to pay 7.5% of 50 lakhs via a challan, just like I am paying the service tax. I'm talking about the service tax regime. So just like I have to pay service tax, I'll pay via GAR7 challan. I used to pay 7.5% of 50 lakhs. And I'll get my appeal registered, and from 92.5%, the balance 92.5% of 50 lakhs, I'll get an automatic stay. So there was a provision inserted in section 35F of central excise law made applicable to the service tax law also, and under customs law also similar provision was inserted, which used to say that if you have to file an appeal before the first appellate forum, you have to pay 7.5% of the mandatory pre-deposit. And if you have to file an appeal before the second appellate forum, you have to pay 10% of the mandatory pre-deposit, and then you'll get the from balance amount, and no recovery will be done by the department. So this was the entire concept of pre-deposit. Now the question, there is a long-standing litigation on this particular question, that whether this particular pre-deposit that I have to make, whether I can make it from the e-cash ledger in the GST regime, if I talk about, whether I can make it from the e-cash ledger only, or I can use e-credit ledger also to make the payment. So now, before answering this particular question or going forward with the judgment, I would like to put before you the existing provision that is there under the GST laws. So like I mentioned, in the erstwhile law, there was a provision of section 35F, which used to say 7.5% in the first appellate forum and 10% in the second appellate forum you have to deposit as a mandatory pre-deposit for your, in order to get your appeal registered and accepted by the authority, and you'll get the stay from the balance amount of recovery. So similarly, in section 107, that is appeal before first appellate authority, and section 112, that is appeal before tribunal, the second appellate authority. Tribunal has not been constituted yet, but I just wanted to present the section that is prevalent in the GST regime before you. So subsection 6 says, subsection 6 of section 107. So subsection 6 says no appeal shall be filed under subsection 1 unless the appellant has paid. It is not saying deposited, it says paid. So highlight this particular word, paid, in full such part of the amount of tax, interest, fine, fee and penalty arising from the impugned order as is admitted by him. So whatever amount I have admitted out of 50 lakhs, suppose 50 lakh demand is confirmed, I have admitted 10 lakhs of that demand and 40 lakhs I want to dispute. So 10 lakhs you have to pay as per clause A. With respect to remaining 40 lakhs, it says B, a sum equal to 10% of the remaining amount of tax, that is 40 lakhs, in dispute arising from the said order, subject to a maximum of 25 crore rupees in relation to which appeal has been filed. So upper cap of pre-deposit has been kept as 25 crore rupees. And it says whatever amount you have accepted, you have to deposit it fully. And whatever amount is remaining that you are disputing, for which you are filing the present appeal, you have to pay 10% of that amount in order to get your appeal accepted and seek stay from the recovery proceedings of remaining 90% of the demand. So in my example, I have to pay 10 lakhs plus 10% of 40 lakhs. So I have to pay in total 14 lakhs in order to file appeal before the first appellate authority. Now talking about the second appellate authority, the provision says no appeal shall be filed under subsection 1 unless the appellant has paid, again, in full such amount which is admitted by the assessee, and a sum equal to 20% of the remaining amount of tax in dispute, in addition to the amount paid under subsection 6 of section 107 arising from the said order, subject to a maximum cap of 50 crore rupees. So if I want to pursue the second appeal in my example only, for example, 50 crore demand, 50 lakh demand has been confirmed. I filed an appeal before the first appellate forum, wherein, just like I mentioned, under subsection 6 of section 107, I have deposited 14 lakhs as a mandatory pre-deposit. Now going forward, I have lost the appeal. Now I want to pursue the appeal before the tribunal. So it says that whatever amount you have accepted, you have to deposit that. That I have already deposited 10 lakhs, so I need not deposit the 10 lakhs again. With respect to the remaining dues, 40 lakh rupees, I have deposited only the, already I have deposited the 10%. It says in addition to that 10%, you have to deposit 20% more. So 8 lakhs now I have to deposit in order to file the appeal before the tribunal. So 14 lakhs I have already deposited in the first appellate forum, and before the second appellate forum, as per subsection 8 of section 112, I have to deposit 8 lakhs more. So now in light of this particular provision, I want to discuss with you the judgment wherein it has been decided that whether this 14 lakhs and this 8 lakhs can be made through e-cash ledger only, or it can be made using my e-credit ledger. So why I am discussing this? Because there is a major financial crunch, the liquidity crunch that happens if the assessee is made bound to deposit the amount of pre-deposit through e-cash ledger only. So suppose I'm having a huge amount of IITC in my e-credit ledger, and I have to file an appeal. So earlier, before the judgments I'm going to discuss, I was made to deposit pre-deposit only through e-cash ledger. So I have to deposit 14 lakhs again into the e-cash ledger, despite having those 14 lakhs parked in my e-credit ledger. I have to deposit it again and file an appeal. So why this particular issue was raised? There was a judgment of Jyoti Construction versus Deputy Commissioner of Central Tax and GST, Commercial Tax and GST, sorry, Jaipur. This was pronounced by Odisha High Court way back in last year, 7th October 2021, wherein it was held that I want to discuss this particular thing with you, that section 106 and section 107 and section 112, which I just produced before you, all those two sections talk about that I am paying a part of my confirmed dues, part of my output tax in via mandatory pre-deposit. So subsequently, if I lose the case, I've already paid 10% and 20%. I have to pay the remaining 70%. And if I win the case, I'll get the refund of this 10 and 20%. So this is a kind of output tax only that I'm paying from my pocket as a mandatory pre-deposit in order to get the right to file an appeal. So in this judgment also, Jyoti Construction, it was a petitioner's plea that I'm paying the output tax, and output tax can be paid via e-credit ledger, via 3B. So allow me to pay mandatory pre-deposit through 3B also. So Odisha High Court held that it is not possible to accept the plea of the petition that output tax, as defined in section 282, could be equated to the pre-deposit. So they said that pre-deposit is a different thing, output tax is a different thing. Pre-deposit is a condition to pay for filing an appeal, but it is not an output tax. So basis this particular observation, and along with this, one more observation was made by Odisha High Court, that the section 41, which prescribes that e-credit ledger can be used for so and so purposes, it does not specifically prescribe that e-credit ledger can be used for making payment of output tax also. Oh, sorry, pre-deposit also. So it says that e-credit ledger can be used for output tax, but it does not say that it can be used for making payment of pre-deposit also. And they already said that output tax cannot be equated with pre-deposit. These are two different concepts, different terms. So with these two observations, it was said that output tax is a different thing, pre-deposit is a different thing, and pre-deposit has to be made mandatorily by e-cash ledger. So there was a very divergent views in the industry pursuant to this particular judgment, and assessees used to suffer because of the this judgment that which used to say that pre-deposit can only be made through e-cash ledger, and assessee was made bound to deposit through e-cash ledger only while filing an appeal. So recently there are two judgments which came parallelly, one by Bombay High Court and another by Allahabad High Court, wherein it was categorically held that no, pre-deposit can also be made via e-credit ledger. It does not has to be specifically emphasized that it has to be made by e-cash ledger only. It is upon the assessee to choose whether to make it by e-cash ledger or e-credit ledger. So what are the observation of Bombay High Court? That pre-deposit is to be made against tax and not interest and penalty. So like I just mentioned before you, the section 106 and 108, if you read subsection 106, it says a sum equal to 10% of the remaining amount of tax in dispute. So this was the observation of Bombay High Court, that pre-deposit is always to be made against tax and not interest and penalty. And since tax is allowed to be paid, like I just mentioned, tax, this is the output tax that I have to pay. If I'm not filing an appeal, I have to pay this output tax, the demand that has been confirmed by the officer. Now that I'm filing an appeal, in the interim, I'm paying 10% of that output tax. So that same observation was made by the Bombay High Court also. Again, also it was observed by the Bombay High Court that section 107 and section 112 says it is paid and not deposited. If I am depositing it notionally, then it will be said that it is deposited, but it is paid. I am paying a part of the output taxes. I am paying a portion of the output taxes. And then they took cognizance of section 49 of the CGST Act, which talks about the output tax and everything. And then they also interpreted the circular, recent circular 6 July 2022. It does not specifically say that pre-deposit can be made via e-credit ledger, but it was interpreted in such a manner by Bombay High Court to hold that pre-deposit can be made by e-credit ledger also. Then there was this another judgment of Tulsi Ram and Company versus Commissioner. This judgment was pronounced by Allahabad High Court on 23rd of September 2022, wherein it was held that this court finds that pre-deposit has been made by the firm before the appellate authority, and that the appellate authority shall not insist the firm to make pre-deposit through electronic cash ledger only, and shall proceed to decide the appeal on merit strictly in accordance with the law. So Allahabad High Court also in the Bombay High Court judgment came on 16th of September, and Allahabad High Court judgment came on 23rd of September. So within a gap of 7 days, these two judgments were pronounced. So Allahabad High Court also in the same, by going by the same finding and observation of Bombay High Court, held that the appellate authority should not insist from the taxpayer that you have to make mandatory pre-deposit through cash only, and it should not be made by credit ledger. It can be made by credit ledger also. Now, these two judgments were talking about the cases wherein I have to pay the tax. I have to, my tax was under dispute, and I have to pay, make payment of 10% of the tax under dispute as a pre-deposit. But what about the cases wherein if you have gone through subsection 6 of section 107, which I just produced before you, there is a proviso also which I have not given here. There is a proviso also which talks about that if there is a order passed under section 129 subsection 3, that is the e-way bill order, detention order for e-way bill proceedings, then in that case, since the penalty is only under dispute, you have to pay 25% of the penalty as a mandatory pre-deposit. So in those cases, my question comes that whether that 25% of the penalty that I'm making as a mandatory pre-deposit, whether that can also be made via e-credit ledger. Sir, the answer is no. Reason being that in both the judgments of Bombay High Court and Allahabad High Court that I produced before you, it talks about that both these judgments are based on the intent that I have a confirmed dues of tax that I have to pay. If I'm not filing the appeal, I'm paying of my confirmed dues of, in my example, 50 lakhs. But since I'm filing an appeal, I'm paying a part of those dues, which are output tax only, part of those dues, just part of those dues as a way of making mandatory pre-deposit, and remaining part of the dues I'm litigating. So in case I win the case, I'll seek refund of mandatory pre-deposit also. But if I lose the case, whether department will ask for 100%? No, department will ask to pay remaining 90% from me. So I have already paid 10% of my dues, output dues. That 50%, 50 lakh demand was on X category of service. So I was liable to pay tax on X category of service. It is my output tax. But since I have not paid, a litigation has arisen. So both these judgments are premised on the fact that I am paying part of my output tax only. But in case of penalty, as you all know, penalty is not payable by e-credit ledger. Penalty and interest is not payable by e-credit ledger. Tax is payable by e-credit ledger, but penalty and interest is not payable by e-credit ledger. So if I am pursuing the penalty under litigation, only penalties case is there, and I have to make a mandatory pre-deposit for penalty. So Again, it will by using the judgment of Bombay High Court and Allahabad High Court, it will take the same nature as of penalty. That 25% pre-deposit I'm making, it will take the same nature as of penalty. So since the penalty is not payable by e-credit ledger, that 25% of the pre-deposit that I have to make for the against the detention order, that can also not be made through e-credit ledger. That has to be paid via e-cash ledger only. So I've tried to cover the first two questions out of the 13 questions that we have put before you. Now we are going to discuss whether parallel proceedings are allowed. So there is a judgment of Calcutta High Court, a very recent judgment by RP Buildcon Private Limited. So I want to stress upon the fact that these instances of parallel proceedings, since in GST regime, we have both central tax authorities and state tax authorities with whom we have to deal as a professional or as a taxpayer. So these cases of parallel proceedings or repeated proceedings usually occur with the CGST department only, not with the SGST department. So in my practical experience, I have seen numerous cases of parallel proceedings, all in the case of central tax department. So there are different wings of central tax department, as you all must be aware of. One wing is anti-evasion department, other wing is audit department, other wing is this DGCI also comes under central government. DGGI, which we call in GST regime, Directorate General of GST Intelligence. Then the fourth wing is the range or jurisdictional officer, the superintendent and the assistant commissioner, under whose jurisdiction a particular taxpayer falls. So a taxpayer is subject to 4 jurisdictions: the anti-evasion, the audit, the range or jurisdictional officer, and the DGGI's jurisdiction. So there are certain cases wherein, let's say, for example, for the year 2017-18, my audit has been done by the audit department, and they have concluded that only, let's say, 10 lakh of dues are pending against the SSC, and I have paid off those dues, and my matter has been concluded. Now, after 2 years or so, anti-evasion department will again issue a notice that, sir, your so-and-so case we have found, and because of that, for the year 17-18, you have to again produce the entire balance sheet, trial balance, ledgers account, 1 versus 3B, 2A versus 3B, and all those reconciliations. So in that case, whether it is permitted by the law. So in this particular case of RP Buildcon Private Limited, the facts of the case were that an audit under Section 65 was conducted for the year 17-18 to 19-20 for Messrs. RP Buildcon Private Limited. However, and it was ongoing. In this particular matter, it was ongoing. The audit was not concluded. It was initiated and it was ongoing. In between, the notice was raised. A notice was issued by the superintendent. So by superintendent, I mean the jurisdictional range officer under whom my jurisdiction falls, inquiring for the same period. Then again, a notice was issued by anti-evasion wing covering the same period. So I also have dealt in some cases of my clients wherein there was a repeat vice versa case, that my this anti-evasion wing has concluded the entire proceedings. They have seen the entire balance sheet. They have seen the entire output tax that I have to pay. They have seen the entire contracts that I have entered into, the taxability of those contracts. They have seen the entire reverse charge liability. They have seen the entire Senvat credit that I have availed. I'm talking about the erstwhile regime. And again, once the inquiry has been concluded by anti-evasion wing, the audit wing has issued the notice that we are going to do the audit. So there are many cases wherein these kind of things are happening from the central GST department, where they are saying that even if one wing of the department is conducting an inquiry, we are also going to do the same inquiry for the same period. So it was held by the Honorable Calcutta High Court in this particular matter. So in this matter, respondent plea was that the superintendent and anti-evasion wing said that we are not aware that a particular audit has been initiated and is pending from the another wing of the department. Therefore, we have issued the notice. But in this particular matter, Calcutta High Court said that it is not clear as to why in the present days of electronic communications available in the department, such parallel proceedings can be conducted by 3 wings of the same department for the very same period. So they strongly condemned this particular practice of conducting proceedings for the same period by the different wings of the same GST department. And it was again, it was also held by the Honorable Calcutta High Court that since the audit proceedings have already been commenced, and it was the first proceeding that was commenced against the assessee, it is appropriate to order conclusion of those proceedings, and remaining proceedings by the superintendent, the jurisdictional officer, and the anti-evasion wing. It was held that you have to set aside those proceedings, and the audit proceedings can only sustain, can only go on, And audit team was also directed to conclude the audit by either raising the audit memo or issuing a show cause notice. So from this particular judgment that is recently pronounced in the month of September 2022, what are our key takeaways? Our key takeaway is that, sir, in case of parallel proceeding for the same period, I'm not talking about those proceedings because when I was delivering this particular, when I was discussing about this particular judgment in one of my seminar, one professional raised his hand and said, one professional colleague raised his hand and said, "Ki sir, audit has been conducted for in my case, but now the DGJ has issued an inquiry for fake invoice." So, sir, that is permissible because that is not what I'm talking about. The parallel proceedings is that the entire list of documents they are pursuing again and again by the different wings. So audit has already seen my entire balance sheet. They have already conducted the audit. Anti-evasion wing has done the entire thing. But now, audit has done the entire thing. Now anti-evasion wants to do the same entire process. That is not permissible. But if a specific information has been received by the anti-evasion department or DGGI that something has escaped payment of tax. So like in income tax regime also there is a provision which says that if a specific knowledge has been gained that something has escaped payment of tax, that they can do. So if a specific inquiry has raised, that can be done. But if a specific inquiry is not raised, a general inquiry is being done by the two different set of wings of the GST department, that is not permissible. That has been categorically held by Calcutta High Court that that is not permissible. If an audit is being conducted or is going on or is concluded, then no other wing can start the general inquiry or a roving inquiry against the same person for the same period. You can do it for the subsequent period, but not for the same. Moving forward to my third topic for the day, it is an advance ruling. I'm not taking much of your time because some of the issues are already settled for this particular advance ruling. This is an advance ruling of Rights Limited. There's a particular case which I represented before Haryana Authority for Advance Ruling. It is a latest judgment which is pronounced on 18th of October 2022, wherein 7 questions were raised by the Rights Limited before the Honorable Haryana Authority for Advance Ruling. They asked for a taxability of notice pay recovery. So what is notice pay recovery? Sir, I have an agreement with my employee that if you want to leave the organization, you have to serve mandatory 2 months of notice period. And if you do not serve the mandatory period of 2 months, the notice period of 2 months, we'll deduct salary of your, let's say 1.5 months. So 45 days salary will be deducted or will be specifically asked from you, demanded from you if you do not serve the notice period of 2 months. And that particular employee resigns and do not serve the notice period of 2 months. So in that case, I make a recovery, which is known as notice pay recovery. So what is the taxability of that notice pay recovery? Second question that was raised before the Honorable Haryana Authority for Advance Ruling was, in case of some contractual employees, I also get the surety bond furnished from the contractual employee for the same reasons, that if you leave the organization before serving the notice period, I will forfeit your surety bond or I will encash your surety bond. So in the same nature, whether it is taxable. Then the third question that was raised, which is a question that has been dwelled upon by various authorities across India, by Gujarat Authority for Advance Ruling, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, and many other authorities, this particular question, that if I am arranging a canteen facility in my office, and for that a third party service vendor has come to provide services of meals to my employee, but I am doing it for a subsidized amount. So for example, 100 rupees has to be charged from the canteen service provider from the employee, but I'll say ki no, as a part of perquisites to my employee, I will pay 60 rupees of that particular meal to the third party service provider, and 40 rupees I'll recover from the employee and pay it to the third party service provider. So third party service provider will receive full 100 rupees, but I will pay a subsidized value of 60 rupees and 40 rupees employee will pay. So in that case, the 40 rupees that I'm recovering from my employee, whether it is taxable under GST. Similarly, whenever an employee joins an organization, that employee is given an ID card, which they have to, maybe they have to access it they have to use it to seek access to certain floors or the offices in that particular organization. So in case that ID card is stolen or lost or damaged, become unserviceable, so if I have to issue a new ID card to cover up my losses because of issuing the new ID card, because of mishandling of that ID card, old ID card by the employee, I charge a penalty of ₹100. That is the cost of getting a new ID card printed from the employee. So that ₹100 that I'm charging from the employee, whether it is taxable. Then the fifth question that we raised before the Haryana Authority for Advanced Ruling is a very known question of taxability, that liquidated damages for non-performance, short performance, delay in performance. For example, my construction contract was to be completed on 30th of November, and if it is delayed by 1 month, I will charge 1 lakh rupees. So that 1 lakh rupees that I've charged as a part of liquidated damages, on account of liquidated damages for delay in performance or short performance, I would say that my service provider was to do 10 things which were covered in the scope of services, but they have done only 9 things. So for that one thing, I'm recovering liquidated damages of ₹1 lakh. So in that case, whether liquidated damages are taxable. Now, for the same reasons, for multiple other reasons, for example, a tender, some information has been given in a wrongly in a tender. A government has floated a tender in which one of the bidder has wrongly given some of the particulars, false particulars, or modified his bid amount or anything. So in that case, there is a provision in the government contracts generally that whatever earnest money or security deposit or bank guarantee we'll collect from you, we'll forfeit it if following things will happen. For example, just like I mentioned, wrong information has been given in the tender, or tender is subsequently modified or withdrawn or taken back by the bidder. So in that case, certain recoveries are made by the government towards the penalty, in the nature of penalty towards the loss that has been caused to the government due to that false particulars being furnished, and likewise. So for that taxability, we asked from the Haryana Authority for Advanced Ruling. And the seventh and last important point that we asked is, for example, I have a creditor balance of ₹10 lakh that I have to pay to Lavi, and it is being standing from last 5 years. No, Lavi is not coming back to claim from Anmol Gupta that 5 lakh rupees of creditor balance. And after 5 years, my stat auditor is saying that it is coming, it is being carried forward for last 5 years. Now you write it off because Lavi is not coming, and you need not pay it to Lavi anymore. So if I write it off, some organizations write it off using the credit side of the P&L account. So from the liability side of the balance sheet, the creditor's balance appears to the it is written off through P&L account by reflecting it on the income side of the P&L account. So tomorrow department may come and ask us that since it is being shown on the revenue side of the P&L account, this is a revenue and you have to pay tax. So on a safer side, although there is no service element involved, there is no supply involved. Instead, I have taken supply from Lavi for which I have to pay 5 lakhs, and I'm writing off my creditor's balance. Since there is no supply included, this is not taxable. But on a safer side, we also raised this particular question, and Authority for Advanced Ruling Haryana decided that all these 7 receipts or amounts are held as non-taxable. I'll quickly tell you why these are non-taxable. So notice pay recovery, an amount of surety bond forfeited from the contractual employee, along with liquidated damages and earnest money, security deposit, and bank guarantee. So first, second, fifth, and sixth, for these particular points, after filing after filing the application before Haryana AAR, a recent circular was given by the CBIC, wherein these 4 issues were settled, and it was said that these 4 things are non-taxable. So in light of that circular, the Haryana Advanced Ruling Authority also consistently held that these 4 things are not taxable. Regarding third and fourth issue, since these are done as a part of employment contract, like the third thing, canteen facilities provided as a part of employee perquisite. So there is a recent circular on this also, and there are many judgments of Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, Gujarat Authority for Advanced Ruling saying that canteen facility charges, subsidized canteen facility charges, are not taxable since services are provided by the third party vendor to the employee. I am doing nothing. I'm not providing the canteen services. I do not even provide the canteen services. I'm in the chartered accountancy consultancy service. So since it is provided by the third party to the employee, these are not taxable. And similarly, in the case of ID card, it is just a penalty of 100 rupees that I'm charging, not providing any service of ID card. I do not do it outside my firm. There is just an internal circulation only. So like this way, all these 7 things were held as non-taxable. Now coming to the fourth topic of the day. We have 6 topics. We are on the 4th topic for the day. it says that whether an allegation of clandestine removal can be made merely basis of the diary entries. So what is clandestine removal? We all know there is a concept of fake invoice. In fake invoice, there is no supply of goods, but there is an invoice that is being circulated from X to Y, service provider to service receiver, or goods provider to goods receiver. Exactly opposite to this concept is the concept of clandestine removal. Clandestine removal says that there is a supply of goods or services, but there is no invoice issue, meaning thereby that I have sold the goods or services to Lavi, but I have not raised the invoices because of which those particular goods or services has escaped payment of tax, payment of GST. So I have rendered services of 5 lakhs rupees to Lavi, or maybe goods to Lavi. I have supplied goods to Lavi, but I have not raised any invoice, and because of not raising any invoice, that particular goods have escaped payment of tax, and it amounts to clandestine removal. So in many cases, what happens is there is a search conducted by the department, and this concept was predominantly being carried in the erstwhile regime of central excise law, wherein many goods were removed by the manufacturers without paying excise duty thereupon, removed from the factory and sold to the other person without paying excise duty thereupon, जिसको हम हिंदी में बोलते हैं कि कच्चे में काम किया करते थे, कच्चे का काम करते थे, कैश में काम करते थे. So all those cases were being termed as clandestine removal, wherein department used to say that we have found so and so evidence while conducting the raid or the search in your premises, and basis these particular documents, we say that there is a clandestine removal. You have removed the goods, certain goods after manufacturing from your factory without paying applicable excise duty thereupon. So in GST regime also there is an offense which says both offenses are there, that if you are issuing an invoice and not supplying the goods, that is the issue of fake invoice, or you are vice versa, you are supplying the goods but not issuing an invoice, that is the concept of clandestine removal. So we need to understand ki whether if there is a raid carried out in a premises of a taxpayer, there are many ample number of cases on this particular issue that I am discussing. It is a very, very important issue, wherein the department conducts a search or a raid on a premises of a particular taxpayer. They find nothing, no statement is recorded which says that no employee says that मैंने कुछ कच्चे में काम किया है या कुछ कैश में काम किया है, I've done any clandestine removal. There is no evidence which department is able to recover from the premises or the factory or the godown of the taxpayer, but only a diary, एक कच्ची हाथ से लिखी हुई डायरी जो है डिपार्टमेंट को मिल जाती है, जिसमें कुछ शॉर्ट फॉर्म्स लिखी होती है, कुछ ऐसे लिखा हुआ है जैसे 2 × 10 = 20. तो डिपार्टमेंट कहता है कि ये 2 × 10 = 20 में 2 किलो माल 10 रुपए प्रति किलो के हिसाब से 20 रुपए का बिका, और ये 20, तो मैं इस 20 रुपए पे आपसे 14.5% पिछले रिजीम में एक्साइज ड्यूटी और अब के रिजीम में एग्जांपल है जीएसटी 18% में आपसे जो है रिकवर करूंगा, क्योंकि आपने गुड्स जो है क्लैंडस्टाइन रिमूवल कर दिया आपने कैश में. सो वी नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट ऑल द इंग्रेडिएंट्स दैट आर रिक्वायर्ड इन ऑर्डर टू एलिज दैट देयर इज एनी क्लैंडस्टाइन रिमूवल. So the judgment that we are going to discuss is the judgment of Raghuveer Rolling Mills versus Commission of Central Excise Kanpur. This is a judgment of Allahabad Tribunal, judgment pronounced recently on 10th of August 2022. This is a judgment of erstwhile law because this concept was predominantly going on in erstwhile law only. In new regime, this particular concept is not, I mean, the cases are not discovered yet. Right now, the cases that have discovered by the department is only of fake invoices, not the other way around. So in erstwhile regime, there is a judgment of Allahabad Tribunal, Raghuveer Rolling Mills, wherein the search was conducted. There is a 60 brand notebook recovered during the search. In that particular notebook, there were certain figures that were recorded, and basis the figures, only basis the figures that were found in the diary, a case of clandestine removal was made against the Raghuveer Rolling Mills. The proprietor of the company, because of that diary only, क्योंकि डायरी मिल गई है उनको, उसमें कुछ हैंड रिटन फिगर्स मिल गई है, प्रोप्राइटर से जो है एक्सेप्ट भी करा लिया और अमाउंट जो है ड्यूटी की डिपॉजिट भी करा ली. लेकिन जब ये मैटर इलाहाबाद ट्राइब्यूनल तक ट्रैवल किया तो इलाहाबाद ट्राइब्यूनल सेड दैट merely basis, there are ample number of judgments in the erstwhile regime also which says that merely basis one document, you cannot say that there is a allegation of clandestine removal or fake invoices. You have to support it with some corroborative evidences. For example, मैं अगर मान लीजिए क्लैंडस्टाइन रिमूवल का केस करता हूं, मैं कुछ मैन्युफैक्चर करके बिल भी आया होगा, क्योंकि मैं अगर मेरी ऑन रिकॉर्ड लेट से मैं 10,000 किलो की मैन्युफैक्चरिंग दिखा रहा हूं और उस पर जीएसटी पे कर रहा हूं, लेकिन डिपार्टमेंट का कहना है कि आपने 10,000 नहीं आया, 5,000 किलो आपने जो है क्लैंडस्टाइनली रिमूव कर दिया जिसपे आपने जीएसटी पे नहीं करा, तो सर मेरी 15,000 किलो के हिसाब से बिजली की लागत भी होगी. I would be using electricity to that extent of 15,000. My machinery should be capable of producing 15,000 kilograms in a financial year or a period for which clandestine removal is being alleged. So उस पीरियड में मेरी मशीनरी की इतनी कैपेसिटी होनी चाहिए कि मैं बनाऊं. अगर आप कह रहे हैं कि मैं कच्चे में काम कर रहा हूं, तो मेरे फैक्ट्री में, मेरे घर पे, मेरे गोडाउन में सर्च मारी, यू मस्ट हैव फाउंड सर्टेन कैश ऑल्सो. मैंने 5,000 किलो का माल जो है कैश में बेचा, तो मेरे पास कैश भी पड़ा होना चाहिए इतनी ह्यूज क्वांटम का, जितनी आप टैक्सेबल वैल्यू डिराइव करो या उसके आसपास की. Then there is another thing that should be found in the while doing the search or raid in the premises of the taxpayer, which is the raw material. क्योंकि अगर मैंने 10,000 किलो फिनिश गुड्स बना के मैंने बेचे और वो मेरे बुक्स में रिकॉर्डेड है, तो रॉ मटेरियल भी 10,000 किलो का रिकॉर्डेड होगा. 5,000 किलो अगर मैं मैन्युफैक्चरिंग करके बेच रहा हूँ, तो 5,000 किलो की इनपुट्स भी तो खरीदा होगा. या एग्जांपल है, मैं जीएसटी रिजीम में ट्रेडिंग कर रहा हूँ 15,000 किलो की, 10,000 मैंने रिकॉर्ड किया, तो बाकी बचा 5,000 की मैं परचेज भी कर रहा हूँ. तो वो परचेज क्या, आप जिस दिन सर्च करने आए आपको गोडाउन में कोई अनअकाउंटेड स्टॉक मिला क्या जो मेरे बुक्स में रिकॉर्डेड नहीं है? तो ये सब चीजें जो हैं, दीज आर वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट in order to allege that there is a clandestine removal of goods. So with that background, I discuss what Allahabad Tribunal has held in this particular judgment in this matter. It was held that writing in the notebook and the entries thereof was not subjected to examination by a handwriting expert, because they in this particular issue, the department, the search team who conducted the search took statements of many employees as well as the directors and the proprietors of this particular concern, Raghuveer Rolling Mills. So it was held by the Allahabad Tribunal कि आपने डायरी के बेसिस पे एलीज करा कि there is a clandestine removal, तो आपको डायरी की हैंडराइटिंग भी तो मैच करानी चाहिए कि ये डायरेक्टर की या प्रोपराइटर की हैंडराइटिंग है जिसमें उसने जो है रिकॉर्ड किया. Author of the notebook has neither been identified nor his statement or explanation was taken. More so when the department relies only on the entries in the notebook and the statement of the proprietor of the appellant. Serious charge like clandestine removal cannot be established without tangible evidence or procurement of raw material, डिप्लॉयमेंट ऑफ लेबर. लेबर एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट कंसेप्ट है सर. अगर मान लीजिए आप 15,000 किलो की मेरी एलिगेशन लगा रहे हैं कि आई हैव प्रोड्यूस्ड 15,000 kilograms while in my books only 10,000 kilograms of sale is recorded, therefore I have done clandestine removal of 5,000 kilograms. So my labor should also be proportionate to that 15,000 kilos, not 10,000 kilos. मैं काम मैं 15,000 किलो का कर रहा हूँ, लेकिन लेबर मेरी इतनी केपेबल है या कैपेसिटी इतनी रखते कि वो 10,000 किलो का काम कर पाए. तो डिप्लॉयमेंट ऑफ लेबर इज अनदर इंपॉर्टेंट कंसेप्ट. कंजम्पशन ऑफ इलेक्ट्रिसिटी, मैन्युफैक्चर ऑफ एक्साइसेबल गुड्स, सेल ऑफ एक्साइसेबल गुड्स, ट्रांसपोर्टेशन ऑफ एक्साइसेबल गुड्स. कि आप जो है 15,000 किलो की ट्रांसपोर्टेशन कर रहे थे, तो कोई ट्रांसपोर्टेशन की पर्चियां ऐसी मिली हो जो मैंने अनअकाउंट 10,000 किलो को पर्टेन ना करती हो. And then receipt of consideration, which I already mentioned that cash should also be recovered during the search proceedings. So the purpose with which I have discussed this particular concept is because going forward, I am expecting that there are going to be certain cases in GST regime wherein issue of clandestine removal is going to come up. So in all those cases, it is very important for us as a professional or as a taxpayer to understand that mainly because of the diary entries or some entries, the kache ka record, I would say, mainly because of that kache ka record, the department cannot raise an allegation that you have done any clandestine removal. It is our duty that in our submission, we have to raise these points ki, sir, there is no consumption of electricity to that point. There is no deployment of labor to that point. I do not have the capacity machine wise to produce so much goods that you have alleged to be clandestine removal, and all those like issues that I have discussed, the various important facts that I have discussed. Going forward, we are coming up with the most important judgment for the day, the highlight for the day for the today's discussion. It's already, I believe, 6 o'clock. I will take 10 to 15 minutes more to discuss last two topics of the day. They are very important topics. They are the highlight of the today's discussion. So while discussing the scope of intermediary, I want to give you a brief background of what exactly intermediary is and how the litigation revolves around intermediary. So if you have not come up with any such case wherein your client or being a taxpayer, your case is not stuck in the issue of intermediary, I'm going to give you a glimpse of what exactly is the issue of litigation which revolves around the term intermediary. So intermediary has been defined under section 2 subsection 13 of IGST Act 2017, which says that intermediary means a broker, an agent, or any other person So first limb, it says the broker, agent, or any other person by whatever name called. Second, the most important limb of the definition, which says who arranges or facilitates the supply of goods or services of both or securities. So the work of intermediary is to arrange or facilitate the supply between two persons, but does not include a person. The third limb does not include a person who supplies such a goods or services on his own account. So there are three limbs of this particular definition. That broker, agent, or any person, or whatever name called, is covered under intermediary. What does he do? He arranges or facilitates the supply between two people. So one people being the principal of that agent or the intermediary, and the other person being the third party person. So it is his duty to arrange or facilitate the supply between two persons, and he should not be supplying anything on his own account. So he should not be doing anything on his own account. He should not be supplying anything on his own account. He is merely facilitating or arranging the supply between two people. So going forward, before giving you a glimpse of how exactly the litigation takes place, we need to understand what is the place of supply in case of intermediary. So section 13, which talks about place of supply where location of supply or recipient is outside India. So either of the two is outside India, either the supplier or the recipient is outside India. In that cases, the place of supply as per the general rule, GST जो है recipient based tax है, तो location of recipient हमेशा जो है place of supply रहता है, except in certain cases. जैसा कि example मैंने आपके सामने subsection 8 डाला section 13 का, which says that in case of intermediary services, the place of supply shall be the location of supply. So if I am not falling under intermediary services, my place of supply is the location of service recipient. However, if I am falling under intermediary services, my place of supply is the location of service provider, which is me only, who is providing the services. So it becomes very important to understand that what services I am rendering, whether it comes under intermediary or not. So what is the litigation exactly? So there is a company XYZ India Limited Private Limited, which is a subsidiary company located in Delhi, India. And then there is a company XYZ PTE Limited, which is a holding company located in Singapore. Now, Indian company is asked by the holding company to provide certain consultancy services or any kind of services to the company located abroad, to the holding company located abroad, in relation to the clients of the holding company. तो मैं क्या कर रहा हूं सर, दिल्ली में एक कंपनी है, सिंगापुर को सर्विसेज दे रही है सिंगापुर के क्लाइंट्स के लिए. तो दिल्ली वाली कंपनी डायरेक्टली सिंगापुर के क्लाइंट्स को जो है, सिंगापुर वाली कंपनी के क्लाइंट्स को जो है सर्विस दे रही है सिंगापुर वाली कंपनी के कहने पे, और कंसिडरेशन जो है वो सिंगापुर की कंपनी से फ्लो हो रहा है. सो नाउ व्हाट यूज्ड टू हैपन इज, पर्टिकुलरली इन गुड़गांव कमिश्नरेट आई वुड से, एंड सम कमिश्नरेट्स ऑफ द दिल्ली आल्सो, what used to happen is subsidiary company in India used to consider these services as export of services, because all the conditions of export of services is particularly met in this example that I have taken, and they used to claim refund thereon. But while processing the refund, department used to raise this allegation that this refund is not admissible because you are covered under the concept of intermediary. And when you are covered under the concept of intermediary, आप क्या कर रहे हो, आप सिंगापुर वाली कंपनी और उसके क्लाइंट्स के बीच में एज एन इंटरमीडियरी काम कर रहे हो. And when you are covered under the concept of intermediary, the location of service that you are rendering to the Singapore company is the location of service provider. Location of service provider कहाँ आ गया सर, दिल्ली में आ गया, इंडिया में आ गया. तो अगर हम export of service की definition देखें, which is given under section 26 of IGST Act, there are 5 conditions which I need to fulfill in order to qualify as export of services, in which the third condition, the most important condition, being the place of supply is outside India. So on a conjoint reading of all these provisions that I have just discussed before you, what used to happen is department section 13 का subsection 8 use करके आपको बोलता था कि you are intermediary, you are providing services as an intermediary because you are rendering services to the clients of your holding company. You are not rendering services to your holding company, you are rendering services to the clients of your holding company. Therefore, you are acting as an intermediary, as an agent, and your place of supply falls under, as per section 13 subsection 8, your place of supply falls as per the location of service provider who is in Delhi. And since export of service condition says that place of supply should be outside India, in this particular case it falls in India. Therefore, condition of export of service is not met, and when it is not export of service, it is taxable. So मेरा रिफंड तो रिजेक्ट होता था, साथ में मेरे पे एक डिमांड नोटिस भी आ जाता था कि जिसको आप एक्सपोर्ट मान के टैक्स पे नहीं कर रहे हो, अब आप उस पे जो है टैक्स पे करो, अगर मैं आईटीसी का एक्यूमुलेटेड आईटीसी का रिफंड. तो उन केसेस के लिए there is a recent judgment of Genpact India Private Limited. This is a particular case of Gurgaon Commissionerate only. I have closely monitored this particular case. There is a case of Genpact India Private Limited versus Union of India. There is a judgment pronounced by Punjab and Haryana High Court, and a very recent judgment, 2 weeks back, pronounced on 11th of November 2022. And a very important judgment wherein the facts of the case were that Genpact India Private Limited is a BPO that is located in India, particularly in Gurgaon only. It was rendering services to customers located in India as well as outside India. So there is a general facts regarding the company. Now the company has entered into an agreement with Genpact International, which is a holding company or maybe a sister concern or a related company of Genpact India Private Limited, which is located outside India. As per the agreement, the GI, that is the Genpact International, took the services for actual performance of BPO services to the clients of GI located outside India. So, जो GI के clients outside India located थे, उसके लिए Genpact India Private Limited की services लेनी थी कि आप उनको customer care का call center का BPO का जो है services आप उनको provide करेंगे, जो outsourcing की services उनको कुछ चाहिए example है, तो आप वो जो है उनको provide करेंगे. Now, why I'm saying that there are many litigation around this is because we need to understand that labor in India is particularly cheap. So in many cases, what happens is a holding company outside India set up a subsidiary company or a sister concern in India only for the purposes of procuring cheap labor and procuring cheap infrastructure to open an office at a relatively cheaper rates in India. And using those employees or the labor that it has procured in India, they used to provide services to its customers outside India. So if Genpact International in this particular case has to render services to its customers located outside India, it has to employ a team either at Genpact International outside India or in India. So relatively the labor is cheap in India. So they open an office in India whose main purpose is to serve the clients located abroad only. So just like Genpact India Private Limited, there are ample number of industries located in India who are just rendering services to outside India, to the clients of their holding company outside India. So in this case also, the GI took services of Genpact India Private Limited just to provide services to its customers located outside India. Though arrangement जो इन दोनों के बीच में enter हुआ, it required the petitioner Genpact India Private Limited to work directly for the third parties located outside India, third parties being the customers of Genpact International. तो इसको अगर हम सिंप्लीफाई करें, जो पंजाब एंड हरियाणा हाई कोर्ट ने भी कहा कि इसको सिंप्लीफाई अगर हम करें तो सिंपल इतना सा हुआ है कि जीआई ने Genpact इंडिया प्राइवेट लिमिटेड को सब कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कर दिया. तो जीआई ने एक बीपीओ सर्विसेज का कॉन्ट्रैक्ट लिया अपने क्लाइंट से, एंड इंस्टेड ऑफ प्रोवाइडिंग इट हिमसेल्फ, जीआई they have subcontracted it to Genpact India Private Limited कि आप डायरेक्टली प्रोवाइड कर दो. जैसे मैं एग्जांपल लेता हूं, हमारे देश में एनबीसीसी, सीपीडब्ल्यूडी, पीडब्ल्यूडी, राइट्स लिमिटेड, बहुत ऐसी ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस हैं जो सिर्फ और सिर्फ सब कॉन्ट्रैक्टिंग का काम करती है. आईआईटी से, सीएमओ से, पीएमओ से बड़े बड़े गवर्नमेंट कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स लेती है और आगे फर्दर प्राइवेट बिल्डर्स को, कॉन्ट्रैक्टर्स को जो है सब कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कर देती है. तो अगर सर हम कंसेप्ट लगाए इंटरमीडियरी का, तो वो सारे असेसीज जो हैं, जो प्राइवेट बिल्डर्स हैं, वो सब इंटरमीडियरी में फॉल कर जाएंगे. लेकिन उनको हम क्या कहते हैं? उनको हम सब कॉन्ट्रैक्टर कहते हैं. तो सिमिलरली पंजाब एंड हरियाणा कोर्ट ने इस केस में भी इनको बोला कि जीआई ने सब कॉन्ट्रैक्टर की सर्विसेज जो है रिसीव करी हैं. और अग्रीमेंट में क्लियरली देयर वाज अ मेंशन in most of the agreements wherein this issue of litigation of intermediary arises, there is a clause that services are being provided on principal to principal basis. I am not intermediary of any other person. तो अब क्या हुआ कि Genpact India Private Limited ने, क्योंकि उन्होंने एक्सपोर्ट किया था, तो उन्होंने एक्यूमुलेटेड आईटीसी का एक्सपोर्ट ऑफ सर्विसेज विदाउट पेमेंट ऑफ आईजीएसटी में रिफंड अप्लाई किया, जो कि पार्शियली सैंक्शन हो गया, पार्शियली रिजेक्ट हो गया. सैंक्शन करते हुए उन्होंने कैटेगोरिकली बोला लोअर लेवल ने कि एक्सपोर्ट ऑफ सर्विस को जो है क्वालिफाई करता है, और जो रिजेक्ट हुआ वो कुछ इनएडमिसिबल आईटीसी जो इन्होंने कुछ कंपोनेंट्स पे ले लिया था, जो कि इधर ब्लॉक्ड था या नहीं मिलना था, उस पे रिजेक्ट. अब असेसी ने फर्स्ट अपीलेट अथॉरिटी पे अपील फाइल करी फॉर द रिफंड पार्शियली रिजेक्टेड ऑन द इनएडमिसिबल इनपुट और इनपुट सर्विसेज, और डिपार्टमेंट ने फर्स्ट अपीलेट अथॉरिटी पे अपील फाइल करी फॉर द रिफंड सैंक्शन, saying that this falls under intermediary और इनका एक्सपोर्ट ऑफ सर्विसेज तो क्वालिफाई ही नहीं. फर्स्ट अपीलेट अथॉरिटी ने डिपार्टमेंट की अपील एक्सेप्ट कर ली और हमारी जो रिफंड हमें सैंक्शन हो गया था वो पूरा रिजेक्ट कर दिया, ये बोलते हुए कि आप इंटरमीडियरी में फॉल करते हो, एंड सिंस यू आर फॉलिंग अंडर इंटरमीडियरी, योर प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई फॉल्स इन इंडिया, एंड देयरफॉर a condition of export of services is not met and you are not entitled to any refund. In this particular case, in this matter, मैं आपको इस particular matter में after rejecting the refund इन पे एक demand notice भी बना था जनपैक्ट इंडिया प्राइवेट लिमिटेड पे, क्योंकि इन्होंने इनको एक्सपोर्ट मानते हुए टैक्स पे नहीं करा, लेकिन डिपार्टमेंट के हिसाब से जब ये एक्सपोर्ट क्वालिफाई नहीं करा तो दिस इज टैक्सेबल, तो इन पे रिफंड मांगने गए तो उल्टा डिमांड नोटिस इन पे बन गया। एक इंपॉर्टेंट फैक्ट और है इसमें इस केस का कि जनपैक्ट इंडिया प्राइवेट लिमिटेड की जीएसटी आने से पहले सर्विस टैक्स रिजीम में भी, बिकॉज दे वर रेंटिंग द सिमिलर सर्विसेज टू देयर टू जीआई लोकेटेड अब्रॉड, their services were being categorically accepted by the department, the same department as export of services only. Petitioner ने बड़ी अलग-अलग तरीके की, but particularly we need to understand what is the respondents, the department's point of view while saying that it is not export of services, this is intermediary. They said that a supportive role has been played by the petitioner and not autonomous role, मतलब उसने कोई independent role play नहीं करा, उसने as an agent काम किया. Control is that of GI representative over petitioner and its agent relationship exists करता है. GI is directly responsible to its customers for any fault or lapse on the part of petitioner. So since GI has to provide services to its clients, so अगर कल को कोई जनपैक्ट इंडिया प्राइवेट लिमिटेड से फॉल्ट होता है तो GI is responsible and therefore GI is the principal and Genpact India is the agent of that particular principal in rendering services to the third parties located abroad. Similar way में respondent ने ये plea लिया कि petitioner is not providing any services on its own account, it is providing services that has to be provided by the GI. अब और साथ साथ उन्होंने एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट बात बोली कि erstwhile regime के provision, since petitioner mentioned that before this regime coming into effect, I was being given refund, my export of services were being duly accepted by the department. There was also a concept of intermediary, but then also I was said that I qualify as export of services. So why there is a change now? So respondent has taken this plea that every financial is a different set of case. You cannot make applicable a judgment or a precedent that was there in the erstwhile regime to this newly introduced regime of GST. Now, what is held in this particular case? In this particular slide, what I have discussed is that in order to qualify as intermediary, there is scope that has been laid down by the Genpact India Private Limited, and this scope is going to be followed in ample number of litigation that is being going on. So this particular scope is very, very, very important. They have said that in order to qualify as intermediary, three conditions are very important. First, there should be a relationship between the parties of principal agency. In this particular case, between Genpact India Private Limited and GI, there was no such relationship of principal agency. Second, the person must be involved in an arrangement of facilitation. Like I just mentioned from the definition that I read, arrangement or facilitation होना चाहिए, ना कि खुद services provide करो. हमारे केस में Genpact India Private Limited is providing BPO services directly to the customers of GI. बट उन्होंने ये बोला कि इंटरमीडियरी के लिए मैं सर्विसेज प्रोवाइड नहीं कर रहा, आई एम जस्ट अरेंजिंग और फैसिलिटेटिंग द सर्विसेज बिटवीन टू पीपल. थर्ड, द पर्सन मस्ट नॉट एक्चुअली परफॉर्म. इन माय केस आई एम परफॉर्मिंग दोस सर्विसेज, द सर्विसेज हैव बीन सबकॉन्ट्रैक्टेड टू मी टू एक्चुअली परफॉर्म, टू मेक मी एक्चुअली परफॉर्म दोस सर्विसेज. Then it was held that scope of an intermediary is to mediate between two persons, the principal service provider, that is the third party, and the beneficiary, the agent's principal, that is the GI, who receives the main service and expressly excludes any service any person who provides such service on his own account. They further went on to hold that the perusal of agreement indicates that petitioner do not fall under intermediary, since petitioner himself has rendered the main service and not facilitated or arranged services between two persons. तो उसने कस्टमर के बीच में सर्विसेज अरेंज नहीं करवाया, फैसिलिटेट नहीं करवाया, कुछ सर्विसेज रेंडर किया है to the customers of GI. The agreement with parent entity GI is on a principal to principal basis and there is no separate agreement of the company with any of the customers of the parent entity. तो ये एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट फाइंडिंग है पंजाब हरियाणा हाई कोर्ट की कि जेनपैक्ट इंडिया प्राइवेट लिमिटेड ने डायरेक्टली कोई अग्रीमेंट नहीं करा है थर्ड पार्टी के साथ, उसका अग्रीमेंट सिर्फ जीआई के साथ है जिसमें प्रिंसिपल टू प्रिंसिपल बेसिस पे दे हैव टू रेंडर सर्टेन सर्विसेज. Evidently, the scope of services performed by the company is completely different from facilitation of service between the GI and customers of GI. When definitions in both the, अब ये एक मैंने क्वेश्चन आपसे 13 क्वेश्चंस में रेज किया था कि फैक्ट्स, इसमें पंजाब एंड हरियाणा हाई कोर्ट ने बोला, दे कैटेगोरिकली मेंशन कि व्हेन द फैक्ट्स एंड लॉ of the previous regime are exactly similar to the facts and law of the current regime. Facts as in I was similarly providing the same services to GI in the earlier regime also. Law as in the law related to the place of supply as well as the definition of intermediary were exactly same in the service tax regime as it is there in the GST regime. So when definition is same, the law is same, the facts is same, it was held by the Honorable Punjab and Haryana High Court, taking cognizance of a judgment of Supreme Court in the matter of BSNL pronounced in the year 2006, that when the facts and law is same for two tax regimes, then no quasi-judicial or judicial authority can take a different view from the view that has already been taken in the earlier regime. So with this, I have some principles that have been laid down by the Honorable Punjab and High Court that I want to share with you, क्योंकि इस judgment के काफी implications आने वाले हैं. सबसे पहला प्रिंसिपल जो इन्होंने ले डाउन किया कि स्कोप ऑफ इंटरमीडिएरी इज टू मीडिएट बिटवीन दोज टू पार्टीज and not to provide services on their own account. So in any case, any litigation, if you ever come across which involves the litigation around the term intermediary, it is important to understand that whether the scope is to mediate between two parties or to provide services on my own account. The third point being, when there is no agreement of an assessee with third party or any remuneration flowing from third party, such assessee cannot be held as intermediary. So I have to check in my case whether I have an agreement with the third party. तो प्रिंसिपल और थर्ड पार्टी के बीच में क्या मेरा थर्ड पार्टी के साथ डायरेक्ट एग्रीमेंट है या उससे कोई पैसा मेरे पास आ रहा है, फ्लो कर रहा है, देन ओनली आई कैन बी हेल्ड एज इंटरमीडिएरी, अदरवाइज आई कैन नॉट बी हेल्ड एज इंटरमीडिएरी. फर्दर, अगर सब कॉन्ट्रैक्ट किया गया है प्रोजेक्ट एज इट इज, तो उसको इंटरमीडिएरी नहीं कहा जाता. एंड देन द फिफ्थ, द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट टर्म, मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट लॉ दैट हैज बीन प्रिंसिपल दैट हैज बीन लेड डाउन बाय द ऑनरेबल हाई कोर्ट, इस प्रीवियस रिजीम की जजमेंट जो है अप्लाई होंगी नए रिजीम पे, अगर फैक्ट्स और लॉ जो है नए रिजीम में सेम है. तो अगर कोई भी आपके पास ऐसा जजमेंट है जो उस प्रोविजन के अराउंड रिवॉल्व करता है, जो प्रोविजन एज इट इज नए रिजीम में लाया गया, क्योंकि बहुत सारी चीजें एज इट इज पुराने सर्विस टैक्स लॉ से, एक्साइज लॉ से, वैट लॉ से पिक करी गई है, तो आपकी वो जजमेंट वेरी वेल, इट होल्ड्स वेरी वेल ट्रू, वैलिड फॉर द करंट जीएसटी रिजीम ऑल्सो. विद दिस I have concluded my fifth topic, and I think we have already far exceeded our time limit. So I will just sum up this particular judgment in 30 seconds. This is a judgment of MR Metals versus Deputy Commissioner ST and others. Judgment pronounced on 29th of September 2022 by Andhra Pradesh High Court, wherein the judgment is only that फेक इनवॉइस का एक केस बनाया गया जिसमें डीलर्स का नाम मेंशन नहीं करा कि किन डीलर्स के अगेंस्ट में आप फेक इनवॉइसेस कर रहे हो, कौन से डीलर्स आपके नॉन एग्जिस्टेंट है. एक एलिगेशन लगाई गई कि आपने बोला कि ये सप्लाई ऑफ गुड्स जो है ट्रैवल किया, लेकिन कौन से टोल गेट से, और फिर एलिगेशन लगाई गई कि टोल गेट से हमने पता किया, वो कह रहे हैं ये व्हीकल कभी क्रॉस ही नहीं करा. तो कौन से टोल गेट से क्रॉस नहीं करा वो व्हीकल? कुछ ओनर्स की स्टेटमेंट उन्होंने बोला कि ली गई, लेकिन उन ओनर्स के नाम ही नहीं लिखे गए जिन ओनर्स ने अगेंस्ट की स्टेटमेंट दी है. तो इन सब चीजों को नोट करते हुए आंध्र प्रदेश हाई कोर्ट ने बोला कि इट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट इन द प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ नेचुरल जस्टिस टू कैटेगोरिकली गिव द रीजंस और द रिलाइड अपॉन मटेरियल basis which the entire proceedings have been initiated, otherwise the principles of natural justice will be grossly violated. तो हम, मेरा ये जजमेंट डिस्कस करने का मोटिव है कि आज हम बहुत केसेस ऐसे पर्टिकुलरली मेड बाय द स्टेट अथॉरिटीज वी सी जहां पे एक लाइन में आपका रिफंड रिजेक्ट करने की बात होती है, रजिस्ट्रेशन कैंसिल करने की बात होती है, या फेक इनवॉइस के केस में भी एक या दो लाइन में आपके पास जो है शोकॉज नोटिस आ जाता है. तो इन दोस केसेस वी हैव अ रेमेडी टू अप्रोच डायरेक्टली द हाई कोर्ट एंड गेट दोस नोटिसेस क्वॉश्ड, और वी कैन सीक द रीजंस फ्रॉम द डिपार्टमेंट कि at least give me the detailed reasons, otherwise the principles of natural justice will be a mere formality and it will not be complied. With this, I conclude my today's session, and I once again thank Team TAXO for giving me this opportunity, and I also thank all my attendees to patiently listening me till the very end. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for such a wonderful deliberation, and it was great you took us through the background before discussing every case law. And moving ahead, I request all the participants to put their queries in the chat box. And with this, we come to an end to our 24th session of TAXO Prime Time. And so our next session would mark the 25th session of the this TAXO Prime Time series. And in next session, we would be discussing, the speaker would be discussing the latest judicial pronouncement related to refund and registration. And I hope refund and registration are the most top topics in the tax litigation these days. So looking forward to see you all. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.